Hello, everybody, to GDT Live, presented by Game Day Tarps Podcast. I'm Dayton Camo alongside Colton Davies today. And today we've got a good one, a doubleheader. Austin Elliott, Memorial Cup champion, London Knights goaltender, joining us here in a few minutes. And then Russ Cohen from the NHL Network, Sirius XM Radio at 11:30. We've got a pretty good one. So, Colton, why don't we kick it off by just quickly going back over what we went over last night. Game 4. Holy smokes, dude.
Right. Hell of a game. Like, not it was exactly like we talked about yesterday, where Edmonton needed to have that game, and they did. And the superstars came out with Leon Draisaitl. And I think that was exactly what Edmonton needed. Obviously, the first period was just a gong show for them, but after that, everything came together.
Yeah, definitely not what I expected. I turned the TV off, actually, after the first period and went to sleep because these 9 o'clock games out here on the East Coast are killing me. But, before we get into that, let's just quickly go over a couple of the CHL awards that were just nominated or announced. Gavin McKenna, obviously, Player of the Year. Gardner McDougall, Coach of the Year. But we honestly might have a goaltender snub of the year joining us here. Why don't we welcome Austin on?
Let's do it.
All right. Austin, man, how's it going, man?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Welcome on. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no worries.
So,
Austin. Let's start with the game last night. Were you watching the game last night?
Yeah, I was with a couple buddies. I'm back home in Alberta now, so I got a couple friends that are pretty diehard Oil fans. So, yeah, I watched that one. It was a crazy one.
Nice. That's awesome.
Growing up, were you an Oilers fan?
No, I was actually a Leafs fan. Was sort of just raised like that. My dad was a Leafs fan, and I was sort of just brought up like that. So, but I'll cheer for the Alberta teams when they're in the playoffs and the Leafs aren't anymore.
Makes sense.
That's good stuff. Let's go back to the Memorial Cup. You're coming off a humongous win. Kind of walk us through that, what it was like for you personally, because I bet there was a little bit of a redemption thing there for you, a little bit, hey?
Yeah, definitely a little bit. It was obviously super cool to be at the Memorial Cup. Back like the start of this year, never would have thought that that would have been how my season panned out. But yeah, going up against the Tigers was pretty cool. Played against all those guys, and a couple of those guys I played with in Saskatoon. So it was definitely a really cool experience there. For me, I was just trying to focus on beating every team there. Wasn't trying to put too much into the WHL stuff, but no, it definitely felt good to come out on top against them in the final.
Yeah,
Austin, I gotta ask you. Oh, sorry, Colton, but I gotta ask you, Austin, who was the toughest player that you faced there? You faced two different leagues. I mean, you obviously played against the WHL and in the WHL to start, but you never really faced the Q. Who was the toughest player that you faced at the tournament?
Yeah, I mean, Gavin McKenna was probably the most skilled player we played. The stuff he can do it's mind-boggling sometimes, and he beat me twice in that last game. One of them got called back, luckily, but he's definitely a special player.
Yeah, I won the CHL Player of the Year for a reason, but I guess I had to get your insight on that one, see what your thoughts were as a goaltender.
Yeah, I mean, like his shots like crazy, and he's just super smart, skilled with the puck. He can do it all.
Yeah, he's next generational, right? One of those generational players that's coming through. Speaking of talented players, you played with Kasper Halttunen all year and a number of talented players in London, but can you speak a little bit on Halttunen and just his sniper abilities?
Yeah, he's got a cannon of a shot. I mean, and he really turned it up towards the end of the OHL playoffs there. Had a insane OHL final. Seemed like everything he touched was going in the net, and yeah, it was awesome being on a team with him and a lot of those guys. They're all really great players. And Holtz, it was tough playing him in practice when they'd do the power play. It's like there's no point in being in the net almost because his one timer's so good. So he's got a bright future.
I can see
definitely. I think him along with Sam Dickinson, he's probably got a pretty wicked shot too, eh?
Yeah, there's a lot of guys like could go down the list of guys that have 6 shots on our team. So yeah, Dickey's another guy that's really bright future for that guy. He's one of the better players that I've played with.
Coming into London, was there like someone that kind of took you under their wing and kind of just welcomed you onto the team? Some player that was just kind of there for you?
Yeah, there's a couple. Ryder Bolton, believe it or not, was driving me to the rink every day for the first little bit, and then Easton Cowan too. I had sort of known him from being at the Leafs development camp a couple years ago with him, and played with Fraser Minton and Brandon Lazowski in Saskatoon, and they were friends with him from all the Maple Leaf stuff. So sort of knew him a little bit, and he sort of was able to introduce me to the rest of the team, and just take me out to lunch the first couple of days.
Yeah, definitely seems like Bolton's a good guy. My mom used to babysit his dad before he went to the NHL, and then passed down his fighting talents to his two sons. So
yeah, his whole family's crazy.
Yeah, talking about crazy players, what were some of like the scariest, or like not scariest, but like nerve-wracking moments you had, like big guys coming down on you, or like just something like that? Was there any times that you were kind of like nervous in the net at times?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't say I get too nervous in games, especially being my last year at junior, sort of, was better on that, like the mental side of things, I think. So, I mean, I'm sure there was a time maybe, but for the most part, I was pretty good at staying calm in games.
Is there a goalie you try to replicate yourself after?
Yeah, I was a huge Carey Price fan growing up.
Okay.
He's definitely a guy that I look up to, and try to take things from. He was always super calm in the net, and just made stuff look easy in there. So that's sort of who I try to model my game after.
That's a great pick. Can we go back a little bit to your Saskatoon days, and can you maybe shine a little bit of light on what kind of transpired at the end there and what happened with you exiting and ultimately going to London?
Yeah, So played there parts of 3 seasons, and then last year just ended up losing the crease in playoffs there to like another good goalie they have, which sort of started my transition out of the league, I guess. Sort of waited through the summer for something to happen, and at the time there's like quite a few overage goaltenders still kicking
Mhm.
around the league, so comes down to a numbers game, and got released, went through waivers, and then had a couple teams reach out from the queue, one dub team after the waiver period actually, and then London obviously. So yeah, once London came calling, it was a no-brainer to go there.
Yeah, no, absolutely, no brainer for sure.
Yeah,
And I get that about the overage goalies. I work for the Kamloops Blazers as well,
yeah,
and yeah, we just had our goaltender of 6 years, Dylan
yep,
Ernst,
yep,
head off and retire. So
yep.
totally get that. It's a battle for a position, of course. But were you at all shocked that no other WHL team kind of took a chance on you?
Yeah, definitely a little bit. Like I
Yeah.
had 2 really strong seasons, in my
Yeah.
opinion. But I knew stuff would work out in some fashion. Like I knew I was too good to not end up somewhere in the CHL at least. So
Yep.
I had faith that that it would all work out.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yep.
Looking ahead here, Austin, obviously you're going to Marley's camp. Is there anything you're trying to push yourself on or work on, any skills this offseason heading in?
Yeah, I think for me it's definitely, get a little bigger in the gym, and that'll translate to the ice, being more explosive on the ice. I think for me too, um I'll be going the school path this next year
Yep.
here. So I think that'll be good too, to just, mature a little bit, and, obviously be playing against a little older guys there. So I think it'll be good to get a little better the next couple of years, develop a little bit more, and then, try to get into pro.
Have you gone down yet, taken a look at the facilities or anything?
No, I wasn't able to. It's And I'm sure a lot of guys weren't either because, all the rule change and everything sort of happened so quick mid-season there. So I head down there at the start of July. So I'll get to go and check it out. I'll be down there for about a month. So yeah, I'm definitely excited to get down there. Never really been to Boston or any of those East Coast cities there in the States. So it'll be cool.
Yeah, it's definitely a different feel. Obviously from Alberta, you're going to be on like a different time zone from your
Yeah.
family and your friends back home. Have you
Yeah,
talked to them about it, or they're probably obviously pumped for you?
Yeah, they're excited, and I mean, sort of got a taste of it this year living in London.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be nothing new.
Was the decision to go to the NCAA pretty simple for you?
I think so. Especially UMass Lowell, playing in Hockey East, a good conference there. And, I'd sort of talked to them a little bit too before I signed in the WHL a couple of years ago. So there's a little bit of familiarity with the school there. And yeah, they've obviously got a couple more CHL guys going down there. So I think it'll be a good experience.
Yeah, no, it'll be good. It's cool to see everything kind of open up for these NCAA schools and just everything that you guys are able to now do. I think it's pretty cool. Is there a guy or not a guy, sorry, but is there a moment that you kind of reflect on throughout your junior career other than winning the Memorial Cup that kind of means a lot to you?
Yeah, there's definitely a couple. I think two of them, like my 18-year-old season, I won 2 Game 7s in our playoff run that year. First one was against the Pats, Connor Bedard, so that was a pretty cool experience, beating them in 7 games. And then the next series we reverse swept Red Deer to make it to the conference final. So that was a pretty memorable playoff run. I think our team sort of overperformed our expectations, so that was cool to be a part of.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so now I got to ask you, you've played against McKenna, you've played against the top players, and you've played against Bedard. Who do you think's got the toughest, who's the best out of them?
Yeah, it's tough to say. They're sort of different styles.
Yeah.
I think Bedard's more just like a goal scorer, with his shot, and he was he was tough to play. But yeah, just playing McKenna here at the Memorial Cup there, he's so slippery with it, and he's just so dangerous every time he touches the puck. So they're definitely a bit different from each other, but they're both real good players.
Talking about the Memorial Cup, Austin, obviously you guys went back and you had that celebration in London. What's it like playing in London? They sell out almost every game, close to 9,000 plus every game. What's it like playing there?
Yeah, it was awesome. I'm not sure another junior franchise has that sort of fans and the rink like that. It was crazy. Like every single night during the regular season, didn't matter who we were playing or what day it was. It was packed, and they were bringing the energy every night. So it was awesome, especially in playoffs too. They brought it to a whole nother level. So yeah, that was amazing to be a part of.
Yeah, it definitely seems like the fans rally around the team, rally around the city, and the Hunters obviously do a great job of that, bringing the fans in.
For sure.
Can you talk about Dale Hunter a little bit and what it was like to play under him?
Yeah, I mean, he's seen it all. So the guys listen to him, respect the hell out of him. So he was awesome, and he left a little bit of it to the players too. Like he understood that we had an older group, an experienced group. So he did a really good balance between coaching and letting us figure it out ourselves. So yeah, he was definitely huge for our team.
I just want to know kind of what team bonding exercises you kind of did at the Memorial Cup. I know when the Memorial Cup was hosted here in Kamloops in 2023, a lot of guys went on hikes, went and played disc golf, kind of just do that thing to wind down. What did you guys kind of do to, just during your days off?
Yeah, we'd so we were staying right by the water there. We'd go for a walk by the water, try to find a beach or something. And then we had a massive team banquet room. So we had the video game system, ping pong table. We were throwing the baseball or the football around, and then Ryder Bolton brought some mini sticks and a mini stick net. So the guys are playing mini sticks a little bit too. So yeah, we found a way to have fun.
What a character he is.
Yeah.
How was
so
your
fun.
French, eh? Did you have to talk
Oh,
any?
I took French in high school, but I forgot all of it. So, yeah, it was kind of tough there. Like some restaurants, like it's a really French town. So,
Yeah.
some restaurants is kind of hard to order the right thing, and yeah, a lot of French speaking people there. So we had a couple guys that could speak French, and then the CHL provided us like a liaison from the queue that
Oh yeah.
could sort of help us out, which was definitely huge. So yeah, we were able to get by.
Yeah, it's probably a huge one having that guy from the queue with you.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that definitely helped a lot.
Is there anything else you wanted to touch on here, Colton?
We talked, yeah, just you're going to the Leafs camp, obviously. Developmental camp. This is your second time going to this?
Yeah, so I mean, nothing's set in stone yet, but
Okay.
yeah, definitely be happy if I ended up going there. But yeah,
Yeah.
nothing's set in stone.
Okay. Well, yeah, no, just I was curious about that. Saw
Yeah,
something about that online, so
yeah,
that's good. But what is it? Let's as we cap it off. What does it feel like to be introduced as Memorial Cup champion Austin Elliott?
yeah. It's unbelievable. It's so hard to put into words. Like it's definitely one of the harder trophies to win. You know, there's
Yeah.
60 teams, and it's a long season. And even in the Memorial Cup, you know, one game can go either way. So it's it's definitely it's definitely a huge honor for me. I mean, no one from out west has won the Mem Cup since like the Oil Kings, I think, in like
Yep.
2014 or whatever. So it's definitely special. It's something I'll definitely remember forever.
Well, Austin, this has been a great one. Thank you for coming on again. But before you leave, we got to get a prediction for you. Who's winning the cup?
I gotta say the Oilers. You know,
Yeah.
it's got to come back to Canada one of these years, you'd think. And you know, with the two best players in the league, I can't see them losing it 2 years in a row. So I think the Oilers are gonna bring it home.
I couldn't agree more. And I got one
Yeah.
more for you. Sorry, I got one more.
Yeah.
As a goalie though, when Chris Knobloch pulls Stuart Skinner, what like if you're in that situation, what does that do to your mental game?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in situations like that. He's doing it to create momentum for the team, which I guess worked, but it kind of shafts the goalie too, because he wasn't playing bad. You know, he was making a
Yeah.
lot of good saves in the first period. There, they sort of hung on to dry, and now it's a question. It's like, who do you start in the next game? So it puts Skinner in a tough situation. But you know, I'm not a coach, so I don't know.
You say you're not a
Oh, that's
coach,
fair.
but who would you start? Would you start Skinner? Or would you
Yeah,
start
like
Pickard?
I actually have no idea. My heart tells me Skinner,
hmm
but yeah, I don't know.
Well, I guess
See
we'll
what
see.
happens.
We'll see.
Yeah,
Well, Austin, thanks for coming on, man. Definitely hope the best for you this upcoming season at UMass Lowell. Everyone hopefully follows along on your journey, and we thank you for coming on again.
yeah. Thanks so much.
All right, Colton. That was a great episode with Austin. We've got Russ coming on here in a few minutes. Everyone, we want to thank Austin again.
And the
Memorial
London
Cup
Knights,
champion and
Chris
the London
Sagan
Knights.
from the CHL. Thank you to everybody that made that one work for us. Very special to have Austin Elliott on, of course. So we got Russ Cohen from NHL Sirius XM stopping by in about 10 minutes. And we're going to talk a lot about prospects, the draft combine, and just kind of what Russ has been seeing the last couple of weeks. But Gavin McKenna won the CHL Player of the Year. Gardner McDougall won the Coach of the Year. Sam Dickinson won the Defenseman of the Year. What do you make?
Let's go back to Gavin McKenna. Let's start there at the Player of the Year. Obviously, I don't think it was a surprise to anyone. I don't think it should be a surprise to anyone. This kid is a magician. He goes out there day in and day out and lights up the league. You saw it. He might not have had the performance that everyone was hoping for at the Memorial Cup, but leading up all season long with Medicine Hat, this kid was a machine. He had a point streak that was unbeatable. I don't know what else to say about this kid. He's going to be the first overall pick in next year's draft. There's no doubt about it. Whatever team picks him will be great, and whatever team he goes to next year, whether it be in junior or in the NCAA, is going to thrive because this kid is special. There's my rant.
It's a good rant. No, it's going to be good. I think no matter what happens with McKenna next season, it's a big year for him, whether it's in the WHL or whether it's down in the States playing in the NCAA. I think next year he's just going to blow the gates off of wherever he is anyways. So it doesn't really matter. I mean, look how special he is. Look at what Austin Elliott had to say about him too, right? Like, it's not just his goal scoring ability or anything like that. It's just him as a player. He's so talented and so offensively gifted that it's like you're playing. It's like when they match up against Connor McDavid, and McDavid doesn't have any goals, but yet you still have to be all over McDavid because he's still gonna create offense.
Yeah,
Like
100%.
Gavin McKenna does.
He's dangerous with the puck, without the puck. Wherever he is on the ice, he could make something happen, and he's probably going to whenever he is out there. And like I brought up this stat a couple days ago. I forget who it was with. Maybe it was with James, or I don't know. We were talking CHL, maybe Steven. But Gavin McKenna had 12 zone entries, or 12.8 average zone entries per game at the Memorial Cup through the round robin. So like,
yeah,
that's a crazy stat. Just to see that just shows how much this kid carries the puck and pushes play through the offensive zone and the neutral zone. So I think obviously there wasn't any other choice. If I had a vote this year, it would have been Gavin McKenna.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's kind of hard not to. What do you make of McDougall getting Coach of the Year, which is I feel like obviously deserved?
Yeah, I think there's obviously, like, you look at the coaches that were at the Memorial Cup this year, even all four of them were amazing coaches. McDougall, I think the way he came in to a Moncton team at the start of the year that kind of needed a little bit of a push, he gave them that push. He added a couple pieces. Him and his son Taylor, they did a fantastic job. They do a fantastic job every year, whatever team they coach. You saw it with UMB, and now Moncton. And obviously, we got to touch on what happened at the Memorial Cup. Obviously, a hard time for the McDougalls, but for them to be able to push through, and Gardner to still be able to stand behind the bench, behind those players, and coach a team through something like that, just shows like how much he cares for the game and cares for these kids. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like, he really wants these kids to thrive. And people have said, like, oh, NHL coach, he's next up. But I think he's even said before, like, he's comfortable where he's at. He's comfortable teaching these or coaching these young players in a developmental state where he can kind of be there for them and be that driving force behind their development. And I think Gardner really fits the junior hockey mold. And obviously, Hockey Canada is going to have a new coach coming up soon. And I think he'd be the perfect fit.
Yeah, I think let him take the reins of the World Junior team, and then you can talk NHL after that. I feel like that's kind of the last thing he needs. He's won everything else under the sun, of course, but if he can win the World Juniors, win a gold, I think it cements him as a guy who can kind of coach at no matter what level it is.
Yeah,
I think then he gets that chance, but yeah, I mean, it's rightfully deserved, but I get your point about how he is just perfect for junior hockey, right? And some of those coaches are. You look at Don Hay, who's been a legend in Kamloops in Vancouver. You look at Mike Johnston in Portland. Like, they've both have had NHL tenures that just didn't work. So they come back and they continue to thrive in junior. McDougall seems like that, but I mean, someone's got to give him a shot eventually.
Right. You think at some point. Yeah, I think it'll happen. Not sure when. That's the question mark. Time frame is definitely the big question mark there. But
Sam Dickinson. There you go. Sam Dickinson wins the Defensiveman of the Year. I said Defensiveman. That wasn't even a word, but he says he won the Defenseman of the Year for the CHL. No surprise there. Landon DuPont wins the Rookie of the Year award, becomes the second youngest player ever to do so. McKenna becomes the third youngest player ever to win the CHL Player of the Year award as well. But Landon DuPont, what a special player. A guy that I got to watch a little bit this year when he came through Kamloops with Everett. I don't have a lot to say other than that kid looks like he's 20 years old out there and he's 15.
Yeah, before we touch on DuPont real quick, Randy left a comment. The Tigers coach is a legend.
yeah.
Willie Desjardins, he's also a pretty
Yes.
respectable coach over in the WHL. But let's touch on Dickinson real quickly before we jump into DuPont. Dickinson, obviously CHL Defenseman of the Year. Man, Colton, I touched on the last two. I'll give you a chance to go off on Dickinson here. What do you like about this guy?
I think he's next level elite. Like, I think this is a guy that's going to take San Jose's defense core and just completely skyrocket it in terms of how their blue line is going to be able to operate over the next 10, 15 years. This is a guy who's mobile, who's two-way oriented, hard shot, physical in a sense, shutdown abilities. There's a lot to like about Sam Dickinson, and that's why I think, like, if you're San Jose in a draft position and Matthew Schaefer's available, you just pick Michael Misa because you already have your defenseman of the future in Sam Dickinson. I'm excited to see what Dickinson can do at the next level. We'll see what happens if he can make the Sharks out of camp this year. But I feel like there are some good signs that he could very well be an NHL player this October.
I think so. And I don't think we're the only people that think that. Obviously, I heard it multiple times from Victor Finley and Frankie Corrado over the course of the Memorial Cup on TSN that this guy is an NHL player. Craig Button also mentioned it multiple times that this is the most NHL ready player at the Memorial Cup. And I think that's pretty obvious. Sam Dickinson, he does things out there that most players can't do at the junior level. Austin Elliott just talked about it. He has a wicked cannon of a shot along with Casper Halton. And so that's two players that the San Jose Sharks are going to have on their roster there. But yeah, I think Dickinson, you saw that rush against Moncton. He blew by Vidicek on the back check.
Mm-hmm.
And I think right there, he started at his own blue, ended up in the back of the Moncton net. And I think right there, it was kind of like, okay, this kid is like a man against boys. He has nothing to prove. Randy says, yeah, of course.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it, right? Sending Dickinson back to London next year would just be ridiculous. Like, there's no reason. The kid seems more than ready to make that jump, and even if he needs some time in the AHL beforehand, like, it looks like he's more than ready to make that leap. But you know what? Let's we got Russ Cohen sitting here waiting for us. Let's bring Russ on, Dave.
All right, let's go. Russ Cohen.
Hey guys.
NHL Network on Sirius XM and at Sportsology on Twitter. Russ, how's it going?
Good. How are you guys?
We're good.
Doing fantastic.
We're just talking about Sam Dickinson. What do you make of him making a leap to the NHL next year?
Yeah, I mean, I like to start guys in the A. I feel like that's always the best way to do it. I think he is going to be 20 at the right time. I haven't had a chance to look at that. But that's what I would do if he's of the right age, because he doesn't have much left to prove there. He can run the power play. He can do everything. He's improved. He's improved a lot. I had some questions in this draft year, but not enough. I mean, I ranked him really high, but just enough that said, let me see if you're going to really kind of be a star. And he looks like he's going to be a star.
Yeah, I think that's more than a fair take. Let's you were boots on the ground at the combine.
Yep.
I want to get some insight from you on a handful of players, and I want to start with a goaltender, because this is a goalie that I saw you write about, and that's Joshua Ravensbergen. And I've been all over the train that a team with 2 first-round picks is going to take a flyer on him. What did you make of Ravensbergen at the combine, and how was he?
Yeah, he's an impressive kid. Got a big wingspan. Even in the picture I took of him, you could see he's going to have a big wingspan. Smart kid. He, it was funny, like with a lot of media, he was kind of answering the same old media questions. And then I asked him about guys going far side high on him, and he kind of stopped in his tracks and he goes, I'm working on it. Like, he was just like, all right, you've watched me. These other people haven't, and I'm working on it. That's something I'm focusing on this summer. So the good sign of a good goalie is a guy who can be critical of himself like that and know what they have to work on. And that's a big thing. So I was impressed with that. I felt like his answers are good. I asked him about the up and down season. I kind of didn't let him slide on that. And he admitted it. He said, yeah, there were ups and downs for sure. And I want to have a better year next year. And I think he will have a better year next year, but it doesn't matter. Like, it may take him until he's 23, right? And that's okay.
Yeah.
So goalies know this now. I've interviewed enough goalies where they're very self-reflective. And the interesting thing about it, not only are they that, but they also understand that it takes time. They get that it's going to take time for them to go through their craft. They understand that they're not going to start every game. They understand when they come up, they're probably the backup. Like, they get all of that. They're very mature when it comes to that.
I want to stick with goaltenders here for a second. We talked about this the other day, Colton. Jack Ivankovic, Joshua Ravensbergen. Who do you think gets taken off the board first?
Ravensbergen, because of the height.
Okay.
Like, it's almost a guarantee. It's a virtual lock because of that. Ivankovin's good, but the problem is when you start moving up the ladder, like right now he's really good. Like, yeah, he's fast post to post. I watched him in the World Juniors. He does everything right. And UC Saros does everything right too. But then there's a time when UC Saros meets his match in the NHL and guys just start firing high, and it's hard. And I think Saros gets away with it. I think Dustin Wolf's actually doing a better job of it, but he's probably a little bigger than UC Saros. And so Ivankovic eventually is going to go up against that. And that's a hard thing to do because you see how guys are scoring. Like, how's he going to stop that?
He's 18. Do you think he's hit his growth spurt?
I don't know that for sure. And that is always something. Like, I interviewed Riker Lee in April, right? And Riker Lee said, yeah, I just grew a little bit. And he said, from what I'm told, I'm still growing. When I spoke to him at the combine, he grew again. So yes, is that possible? But is 5'11" or 6 foot going to matter that much? No. I mean, for now, the last I looked, I think 6'2" is like the average goalie height now in the NHL.
Okay.
So it's getting bigger.
All right.
Yeah,
for sure. Let's talk about another forward and another WHL guy, but Roger McQueen. He had a big kind of bad year due to injuries. Like, just, it wasn't the year he wanted. What did you make of him at the combine? I heard he was impressive.
Yeah, he's an impressive kid. I have a video up on my Instagram. I like him as a guy. I like him as a player. If he had no injury history, he'd be top 5 all day long. But he does have an injury history. And that injury, if you just look it up, and I've spoken to a few people, skeletal people and otherwise, they worry about that injury. Now, he went through the combine. Terrific. That's more than Cade Lindstrom could do. But he's a bigger guy, and it's probably going to crop up again. And so how many games a year will he miss because of that? And that's an issue. Like, if you're picking in the top 10, do you want a guy that, I don't know, maybe after 100 games starts getting hurt for half a year every year? He did say something that kind of got me a little bit. Like, he was saying, like, bigger guys take longer to warm up, and they really don't. So what that had told me was, yeah, it's taking you longer to warm up because you've been told, hey, you got to go through all these things just to kind of get loose. And that was for the combine he was talking about. So he's going to have that, his whole career. He's going to, I always use the example, and these things are not the same. Like, these injuries are not the same. But one of my favorite baseball players was David Wright for the Mets, right? And his spinal stenosis got to the point where he was working out, stretching, 2 hours before every game just to play the game. And I don't know if it'll ever get like that for McQueen, but he certainly has to go through a process now that a lot of players don't. And he does play a heavy game. If he gets hit into the bench, if his back gets hit into there, is it going to flare up? It might. And so, if I'm a team, I'm thinking about that. Because now if you're a team in the 15s, 16s, 17s, maybe you don't care as much. But you're a team in the top 10, and all of a sudden, that doesn't pan out that well in 5 to 7 years. It could look bad.
Yeah, I get that. And I wondered about Lindstrom and the comparison of Lindstrom's injury this year and just how if teams were looking at it. They're not the same either,
but we see how much has he played in the last year and a half, and
30 games.
Yeah, it's not much. It's a little scary. And I was all in. I ranked him really high, and I'm still rooting for the guy, but I'm a little less pro Lidstrom now than, at the draft.
Russ, someone that I kind of wanted to touch on, I noticed you wrote something along with the prospect Don, who's coming on the show on Tuesday.
Yeah, he told me.
It was the Desnoyers versus Frondel type of thing here. I wanted to see what you thought. Who comes off the board first? Is it Desnoyers? Is it Frondell? I know the Blackhawks are a little bit in on Frondell at 3, but anything could happen here.
It really does depend on the team, but I do think it's Frondell. I think they're not exactly the same player. Like, they both have a physical side, no doubt, and they both have great shots, although Frondell's maybe his wrist shot may be the best in the draft. I think the real difference here is people were worried because Frondell had an injury that he got over, and this blew me away. Like, I put up a video just of him doing a vertical leap because I said, oh, look, he's doing it really well, like better than I see most guys. And it's got like 37,000 views. And maybe it's all Sweden. I don't know. Maybe it's all Blackhawks and Flyers fans. I don't know. But I think that little bit of extra physicality, like just being an athlete rather, over Desnoyers might be that little bit of an edge because Desnoyers does everything right. We don't know how he would do in the men's league. We do know how Frondell would do in a men's league. And Allsvenskan, he was really good. And there are some guys there that, aren't, maybe they're like 6 years removed from the draft. And so, like, he's playing against men there. So I think he's done really well. I think he helped himself. A lot of people like negative about the combine. Well, what could you really learn? Well, when guys are injured, sometimes watching them is good. And when you haven't really heard from a guy, and that's the other thing, not a lot of people have really heard from Frondell up to this point, and his interviews were good, and teams felt that way too. So I think he's got that little edge, but you really can't go wrong with either one.
I know Desnoyers didn't compete at the combine, but do you think, I know he's coming off a Memorial Cup and teams obviously look at that, but do you think teams might have wanted to see what he could do?
No, because when you have 2 wrist injuries, like, what could you really do?
That's right.
So I think they saw what he could do in the Memorial Cup injured. The fact that he was still playing, I think that was his combine, honestly.
Okay. Makes sense.
Do you feel this draft is just going to be all over the place?
Yes.
Okay, because I have this weird feeling the Islanders are going to take Higgins first, but I don't know if they're actually going to, right? And I think a lot of people are questioning it as well because he's from Long Island, et cetera, et cetera. But I feel like it's a very hit and miss draft where if Schaefer goes 1 or Higgins goes 1, things are just going to kind of trickle because teams aren't going to know really what to do because Porter Martone's going to be available and Misa and Frondell and these guys like we talk about. Do you feel kind of the same way?
Yeah, I can tell you that the one thing I'm going to miss teams being on the floor is when I'm with Sirius XM and I do like pre and post, I get to, stay on the floor. And I got to tell you, like, when Shane Wright was falling, the Devils definitely were not sure about what to do. And I watched them. They were literally right next to me, and they were huddling up, and they were looking at their books. And so I knew, because they didn't go right up there, that they didn't have Simone Nemec in mind right off the bat, because they thought Wright was going to be off the board. So when things like that happen, it definitely can cause some chaos, because then, like, teams are like, okay, now we have to kind of really go through this and discuss this quickly. You only get 5 minutes and figure out what to do, right? And so it's interesting. I put up a picture of Higgins because I've covered him for a while now, and I got to cover World Junior Camps. I've seen this guy practicing. I've seen what his makeup is. I interviewed him and his brother like a year or 2 ago. Like, I know all about the family. I'm from Long Island, but I try not to hold that as a bias. Once in a while it comes through. But for Higgins, it didn't, because he didn't really need it. But the interesting thing is he's 186 pounds now. And if you look at his upper body, like neck and otherwise, it's big. And my big thing was, and I said a lot of us failed with Lane Hudson because on my early mocks, I had him in the first round, then I took him out. And I took him out just simply because other guys were getting better. And I'm like, I don't know. How is he going to project? Is he going to be able to do what he does? When he came into World Junior Camp and he put on, like, about, at that point, it was about 7-8 pounds of muscle, I was like, we got it wrong. Like, this guy, I already saw him warming up, and I was like, now he has everything else he needed. And I think this is the same thing for Higgins. But I think that Matthew Darsh coming in there, I don't think he's going to take a big swing on Higgins, even though it wasn't a big swing last year, but now it'd be considered a big swing. And so I think he's going to go with Schaefer because it's safe. I think the fact that he's working out with Adam Pelech over the summer is kind of a tell, because otherwise, why would you have him work out without Adam Pelech? He could work out with anybody. Why would he even be on Long Island working out? He could work out with anybody anywhere in the world, right? But he's going to be there. So I do think it's going to be him. Now, as far as the Islanders trying to get the 4th pick overall from Utah, they're going to try, and maybe they'll put Noah Dobson up, which I'm not sure I would do, because even though I love Higgins, I really like Noah Dobson. Maybe they'll try and do that. What I think is going to happen is it's going to be draft day. There's going to be this speculation, and then I think in the end, what's going to happen is Dart's going to walk up there and he's going to take Schaefer, and then when he gets interviewed, he's going to be like, we tried to get the 4th overall pick. We weren't able to. And then Islander fans will let him off the hook. And I think that's what ultimately will happen.
You're back, Colton.
Maybe.
There he is.
Yeah. Sorry about that. My computer crashed.
It happens.
Away she goes.
I heard what you said there, and then I kind of lost the end of it. But from what I'm getting, Higgins, you can't miss on Higgins.
I don't miss on Higgins. He's my number 1, but I think the Islanders are going to play it safe with Schaefer, but kind of like let the fan base know we tried to get both and we weren't able to. I think I think Islander fans would then let him off the hook, like be like, all right, look, Schaefer's really good. We're okay with this. We wanted Higgins. We couldn't get him. Okay.
Well, Russ, I got to ask you this. At the Combine, there's sometimes some weird questions asked. We asked Stephen Ellis about this the other day, if there's any weird questions or weird answers that he heard. You said you talked to a couple players like Ravensburg and off to the side. Is there anything interesting or surprising that you heard from any players at the Combine this week?
I mean, not so much from a weird question perspective. I think Brady Peddle, when I asked him about why he picked Michigan State and did he know that a lot of guys could go there in the next couple weeks, he said no, he did it early, but then he said there's a lot of skill coming to Michigan State. And he just said it like that with a smile. And players know, right? Like they know who these other guys are going to look at. And so there was that. And then Logan Hensler, who I like, I have him ranked higher than some others, but I think he's going to surprise people because at Wisconsin, you can't zoom up the charts there. The coach won't allow it. So you don't start on the first power play. You don't do any of that. You got to work your way up, right? And so I got him off the side. It's hard to get everybody. I maybe got 50 or 60 out of 90, maybe just closer to 50. And there were 4 great guys out there at once. Like, how do you get them all? You can't. But I got Hensler on the side, and I asked him about the Big Ten, and he thinks it's going to be the best conference in hockey. And I don't disagree, because if McKenna goes to Penn State or he goes to Michigan State, Martone, if he goes to Penn State, if Misa doesn't sign, like if he wants to sign, right? But if he doesn't sign, I think he's going to college, because I think he's going to look at junior hockey and say, I've done all this, and he can get on NIL money in college. So I think he would be going, and he might go to Penn State because of Luke Misa. So Hensler kind of he's up for the challenge. He's just, because I feel bad. Wisconsin's not going to be able to compete with those schools. But for him, it's a good challenge for a defenseman like that. So I thought that was interesting. Nobody else really said anything other than the animal thing. I can't remember which guy, but he talked about a really rare monkey. He looked it up ahead of time. Oh, you know who it was? I think it was Blake Fiddler. But, Fiddler did say something funny, not on the side, but because his dad's known for the trash talking, and the video had come up this week about, against Vancouver. It was interesting because he said he and his dad played pickleball. And I said, well, who's better? And he said, well, me. And I said, why? And he goes, he's just getting old. He can't move as well anymore. So he even trash talk his own dad.
That's got to be one of the better ones.
That is great.
Yeah.
So with Hensler and Jackson Smith and all these guys available, who goes next after Matthew Schaefer?
I mean, I would take Hensler. I think it's Jackson Smith, though. I think he's in the top 10.
Okay.
He's a great kid. I had a lot of discussions in a bar with people that knew him and really well. And so that was interesting. Matter of fact, he was set to go to Penn State the next day. Right after the Combine, he was going to Penn State. So even though he said, I'm not signed yet, I think it was a formality. I think he was going to do that. I like him. I think I don't give comps out, but he does remind me of Travis Sanheim. When I brought that up to him, he didn't mind that. Now, if this were 3 years ago, he probably would have minded that. But Sanheim's really improved in the last 2 years, and his run with the Four Nations was so good now that it tracks with the younger players, So it's interesting how something like that can change over time. So I like him. I think offensively, defensively, I think he's one of the balanced kind of two-way guys. And I think when he fills out even more, he's an intelligent kid. And I think going to college, he's going to work out. Penn State knows how to work out guys. I went to high school with a guy named Ron Heller, and he was a guy that played for like the Eagles and the Dolphins. And one day he came back from Penn State, and he was in the bar, and all of a sudden this guy was like massive muscles. And he was just like the best athlete of my school, but they knew how to build him up. They know how to build him up there. So it'll be the best thing for him.
You touched on Travis Sanheim just for a second, not to go off track, but do you think Sanheim's run at the Four Nations, and then this year, obviously, he played at the World Championships, do you think he's made himself a spot or a name, at least, on the World Championship or the Olympics team coming up?
Yeah, I think he's a lock for the Olympics now because, he's big, he's fast. His offense isn't great, but it's getting better. And I think with Rick Tocchet, he'll get better offensive numbers than with Torts, right? So I do think he is a lock for the Olympics. I think Konechny is a lock for the Olympics. And that's something where 2 years ago for either one of them wouldn't have been possible. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think
I got a question for you.
Oh, sorry.
So I also work for the Kamloops Blazers.
Yeah.
No, for you, Russ.
Okay.
I also work for the Kamloops Blazers, and curious on your thoughts about Nathan Bain.
Yeah, I have not seen him. He's a guy that's off my radar. Sorry. Every year there's guys that I just can't cover them all. And so that's a guy that's just not on my radar as much. So before the draft, I bone up on everybody, but yeah, it's not anybody I've had time to look at. Sorry, Kamloops.
Russ, obviously you said you don't get a chance to cover too many players, but is there anybody from the QMJHL that's kind of making noise other than Desnoyers?
Yeah, Justin Carbonneau. I mean, he's an impressive kid. I think he gained some muscle. There's a risk factor with Carbonneau, though, because he, for lack of a better term, like he basically skates into traffic like all the time. And there is a worry about that. I think teams asked him about that. They were worried about that. But the offensive skills are great. He can dangle. He can skate. He can have some physicality. He's got good size. So that's the only question. The only question is he like a risk reward guy? Is he going to be a guy that basically you have on the team, and if he's scoring 80 points, you don't care if he's a minus 20? Like, will that be him, or will he tone it down because maybe he's trying to do too much in the queue, and now that when he gets out of the queue, it won't be like that. He won't have to provide all the offense or a lot of the offense. So I like him. I do think he is a guy that after the top 10, he's going to get serious consideration. I think by 15, he's gone.
Yeah. Do you think this is a guy that maybe Montreal targets for the French factor?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I never like to do the French factor too much, but there is something to it. I mean, it killed Jonathan Drouin in that market, right? It did. So sometimes it kills a guy. Sometimes you get a guy like this, goes way back beyond you guys, but if you look up Louis LeBlanc, that was terrible. That just fell flat. But Carbonneau would be great. Like that one would work out. That would be fine. And he could be a tremendous offensive catalyst on a team that really is up and coming. So I could see it.
Carbonneau is a guy that's been linked to go to BC. So another guy that could possibly head off to that NCAA route. I'm just curious what your thoughts are on the exodus of CHL players going to the NCAA and just what you kind of think.
Yeah. Just so happens I wrote about that right after the combine on sportsology.com because I had gotten a quote the day before. Like I knew this exodus was coming and I said, let me get ahead of this. And I had a contact with Jay Paterno, who is a board of trustee guy at Penn State, a legacy name. And so, he gave me a great quote, like how they're really reaching out to guys. And yeah, I think everybody's waiting till after the draft, even McKenna, because they just don't want to seem to put out that info beforehand. So I think right after the draft, you're going to get guys that make this jump. I think he would be terrific at BC. I mean, it's a great program. Will Higgins be there when he's there? I don't know. I don't know. It depends who who gets them. I would think they would get to play together. I would want Higgins to go back another year, but he may have proved himself with as built up as he is. So that's one where it'll be interesting. But yeah, that would be BC's game for sure.
It's for Cole Reshney, that's a guy I'm really looking at and see what he can do with UND. I think that's a good decision for him in a sense. So we'll see how that pans out.
I think it will pan out. It was interesting. There was a lot of interest from the Flyers with him, and he basically told me the whole Flyers marketing plan, like how the team's supposed to be, how everything's good. He was really fired up about it. I like the kid. I think his skating can get a little better. I think it's just a little choppy, but he has pretty good speed. But I like the skills. I like the fact that he'll go through a wall for a team. The interesting thing about the college route was I asked him about McKenna, and then he kind of let me know, like, yeah, we are really close. Like, I kind of knew they knew each other well because they played together. But he's like, yeah, it's like my best friend, and I can't tell you exactly what's going to happen, but he knows he's probably going to be playing against him in college. But I think UND will be good for him because that'll round out his game. Any guys who go there definitely feel, that works out for them. And yeah, it's an elite program.
So Colton, why don't you ask him about that question that just came in from Randy? I know you're big on Brady Martin.
Yeah. What do you make of Brady Martin? Is he a guy that's going to go top 5?
Ask Randy. I don't know. No, I'm kidding. I just make fun of Randy. He's been on our show for years. He's always taken part in that. We love Randy. I do think he's going to be top 5. Now, would I take him top 5? I wouldn't. I think I see the way he gets behind the defense. I think his skating needs work. I love his physical play, no question. And I know he could pick some top corners and all of that. My worry about Brady Martin is, and I know he could be like a culture guy. I get all that. I like him. I thought he was a great interview. Actually, I put up an interview with Nesbitt interviewing him because Nesbitt was kind of like trying to want to talk to him. And I was like coaching him, like how to get in there and ask him a question in the scrum. So it's pretty funny. That was up on Twitter. I put it on my X, whatever. I put that up there. But getting back to Martin, the only thing I wonder about Brady Martin is if you draft him that high, is he going to come short on points? He won't come short on anything else, but will he come short on points? Like, remember how Barrett Hayton has come up short on points? They drafted him 6 overall, and he's fine. He's 20 goals, 26 assists, something like that. But when you draft him 5th overall, the expectations are a little more than that. Is Martin going to be that 65-point guy? I question that. I don't know.
Randy says he's got him ranked at number 7 there.
I'm not sure he'll be there, but yes, I know why he does. Well, rankings are different. Rankings can go anywhere from 7 to 12, but I think there's a suspicion that if he slips just a little for basically the hype, he wasn't even in this spot a month ago, that the Bruins probably take him.
That's fair. I think he would fit the Bruins system really well, actually.
Yeah.
There's speaking of Boston University, there's a defenseman that I love over there, and Sasha Boumediene. I saw your article about him. What can you kind of make of Boumediene and how he was able to come over from Europe and play in the NCAA and just have the season he did?
Yeah, I like him. I heard he didn't interview well, but I think I know why he didn't interview well. I asked him the same question twice. I asked him just basically the change coming over, playing from like international play to college play. And I don't think he fully grasped what it was. So I asked it to him a different way. And then he gave me a good answer because it is hard. It's hard. You're going from, playing over in Sweden, then you're playing international play, then you're playing, in BU. I like him. I think he's a tremendous puck mover. I think he's been rocketing up the charts all year long. I feel like there's more offense there, but it's hard to do that at BU when you're, a true freshman and you're trying to find your way in North America, which I think is always a challenge for Euros. But now because of the bad interviewing, it could drop him a little bit. Still think he's a first rounder though, but I thought he would have been in the 20s. Now he might be a little bit, maybe he's in the 30s.
Okay. Speaking of BU, what do you make of Ryder Ritchie announcing? Well, he hasn't announced it, but Cam Robinson of Elite Prospects put it out there that he's going to go to BU. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I like him. I think BU is just an elite program, and I think they've lost some players, so that's a good way of reloading. So yeah, Cam's been pretty good on this stuff. I work with him at Elite Prospects, so yeah, that's exciting. I mean, again, there are going to be some people that don't like this. They don't like these guys switching over, and it's interesting because, again, 10 years ago, this was the same argument. 10 years ago, players could have done this, but for whatever reason, they weren't. Now, was it because they didn't believe in college hockey being as competitive? Maybe. Was it because now there's some money to be had at these universities? Probably. But now the combination of both, between that and I've already played in juniors for 2 or 3 years, and now I'm allowed to leave juniors. Well, now that was it. That was the final straw in that. So now the other leagues will get younger. You'll see more exceptional status guys. They'll stay there 15, 16, 17, or 16, 17, 18. Then they'll start going to college. Not that many players go at 17, but it's just, the education factor is massive. Like, we've all had parents push us to go to college, right? Because you don't really know when you're in high school, but they all push you to push you to go to college. And I even interviewed this guy, Thomas Mikkel, who is he's from Europe. And so I think he's from Czechia. And so I interviewed him and I asked him, are you coming over because your parents asked you to go to college? And he said, yes. And that was a big factor. So, like, when kids do this, they could get out of juniors because they've been there for a while. They might be able to make some money. They can work out and get stronger and make their parents happy. Like, that's hard to do, right? But they can do that.
Yeah, it makes sense. I get that.
Well, Colton, is there anything you wanted to touch on before we let Russ go here and wrap up?
Yeah, just one more. Between Kayshawn Aitchison and Radim Murtka, who do you kind of see going? Because those are two hulking defensemen.
Yeah, I like Aitchison better. I think Murtka is a little bit gorky right now, and I think he has to kind of figure it all out. I think it's easy. I watched a lot of video on him, and I think a lot of his points come from the fact that he's such a big guy in the WHL that he's able to put him up. Aitchison's an interesting one. I got on him early in the year. I interviewed him. I really got to probe his mind, and he's a guy that I call like a cerebral assassin. He wants to get in your head. He wants to get in the corner first, but if he's not in the corner first, he wants you to think about going in the corner first and him creaming you. He wants to have that going. His offense was definitely more than we all thought it probably could be, and I don't know if he'll be put in much of an offensive role in the NHL because they're all going to want him in that other role. So because of that, yes, Murk is a big guy and he's a right-handed shot. There may be a team that says, hey, we want Murka because of that. He's 6'6", 6'7", and he's a right-handed shot. But if not, I would take Aitchison all day long, because how many guys really have the ability to not only shut you down, but kind of psych you out and score some points? Like, there's not that many of them out there on defense.
No, and Aitchison was a guy that I kind of fell in love with throughout the season.
Yeah.
Just a behemoth out there. And then obviously the offensive capabilities came out of nowhere in a sense, and or exceeded expectations, I should say. So yeah. I've heard a lot of things like about Pittsburgh really liking him, and I know Pittsburgh kind of took everybody and their dog out for dinner, but I know Pittsburgh apparently likes him a lot, so it'll be interesting. It's like
remember the Leafs had their own camp again too, so as everybody was leaving town, they had their own little camp, little get together before they all hit Pearson Airport. So who knows with that one what that might yield for them. So, but yeah, Aitchison's, I think, a hot commodity. I think by 12 he's gone. I don't think he's going in the top 10. I don't even think Murk is going in the top 10, but he could.
Okay. I like that.
Well, Russ, we thank you for coming on today. This is a great half hour or more. But before you go, and for the people that don't know, you've written some books in your time. Is there any book out there that you like the most, or that you think people should go pick up?
Well, I'll say, because it's out now, we have a book called Game Winners, the 50 Greatest Game-Winning Goals in NHL and Olympic History. So that's one that we're really pushing now. There's a lot of players and teams in there that people are familiar with. Women's hockey's in there, outdoor games and such. I did do one, though, called Pioneers of Baseball that I'm really proud of. That one I did myself. Normally, I usually go with other people, but this one was one where it's like a photo book with explanations about a lot of old players. And there's a lot of things that went on in the old days of baseball that don't go on now. There's one guy who we figured out the cause of death for, because they wrote down just died. And I'm like, wait a minute, no, I got to find out. And I had somebody help me who's a genealogist, and they found out he died from an autoimmune disease, So back then they didn't know what to, how to describe it or say it. But that's what it was. So he may have had lupus. He may have had something like that. So yeah, that one I'm really proud of. That one is a good one for Father's Day too. That one they'd have to contact me for because I haven't put that one back out in print. That publisher went out of business, but I still have copies.
Anywhere else, where can they find any of your other books?
Sure. Amazon.com has them all. And then you want to read about some of them, you can go to sportsology.com as well. Thanks.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, Russ, we thank you again. Russ Cohen from sportsology.com and NHL Network, NHL Sirius M. And so we thank you again, Colton and Russ. Have a good one, man.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it, guys.
Colton, how's it going? Another great episode, Russ and Austin Elliott. Great Friday, eh?
Yeah, great Friday. Big game tomorrow. What are you? What's your prediction?
Weekend predictions. I'm sticking with it because none of them have been right so far. But we'll go Florida 4-3 win. Regulation, no overtime.
Okay, get the win on the road. I like that.
Yeah.
I like it. I'll go Oilers 5-2.
Oh, okay. Oilers
think
are
they
gonna find
don't
some
let-
offense.
Yeah, they don't let the spanking that they got the other day in the first period be, come back to haunt them. I think they totally just flat out kill it with their offense. McDavid's gonna come out, Draisaitl. I think that home crowd will be buzzing. So
All right. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. It's going to be a good one. Series is now tied at 2, and I think whoever wins this next game, I think takes the series and wins the cup.
I think so too.
All right. Well, everyone, we'll be back on Monday. Another episode of GDT Live. Please go subscribe to our YouTube. You'll find all of the podcast episodes over there and on Apple Podcasts and Spotify if you just want the audio versions, if you want to tag along while you're driving. But yeah, we thank you so very much for tuning in again. This has been GDT Live.